All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our May Safe Routes to School webinar. Our topic is student transit training for safe routes to school. And many transit agencies across Oregon are offering free or reduced fare transit passes for youth and pairing them with travel training education. And this is helping students confidently use public transit and gain greater independence. So today we are going to hear from Emily Reed with Gorge Transit and Kathy Fitzpatrick from the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, who will share about the Gorge Transit Student Program. And then we'll hear from Sarah Mazze with Eugene Safe Routes to School, who will present on Eugene's transit education program and the student pass program that they offer through Lane Transit District. So I am going to turn this over to Emily and let her start screen sharing their presentation.
Great. Thank you, Laura. I'm Kathy, and I'm the Regional Mobility Manager. My focus is mostly on public transportation. And I've been working with Emily Reed, our consultant, on transit projects since I think 2019. So it's been a while. So Emily is a big part of our kind of our creative products, and one of those is our youth programs during the summer. And like Laura just said, 1% of all of the state funding that goes to transit must be spent on grades 9 through 12. And that can be whether it's free passes or youth programming, they need to spend it on those grade levels. So your local transit agency will you can reach out to them and learn about what they're spending their funds on youth on and learn how you can help them because depending on the transit agency, they may be more or less robust as far as their youth programming. So those who don't have enough staff to really dedicate would love to have your help to reach out to youth. All right, next slide. So we're going to talk to you. First, I'm going to give you the background on our public transportation system. It's a very rural system, so we don't have a lot of resources, but we use the resources we do have to great effect. And then I'm going to turn it over to Emily, and she's going to talk about our 6 summer stories, which are the last or the 5 last summers worth of youth programs leading up into our very sixth summer this summer. And then we'll give you some sample communications that we use to reach out to the youth because that's kind of 90% of the job that you need to do is let them know about all this fun stuff that you plan for them. All right, next slide. So, going to talk to you about Gorge Transit. So, we are a very rural, in fact, some of our counties are highly rural transit system. We cover 4 counties, both in Washington State and in Oregon across the river. So we connect 20 communities, um, small communities. So some the size, for example, of Mosier with 450 people, and others are not much bigger. But the transit system does connect those communities and also um, uh, connects to trailheads, et cetera. So really look at what your transit system does because the world is your oyster. Like do they go anywhere near skate parks, for example? We're really lucky in that we're in the gorge and we do have such ability to reach really wonderful recreational activities. Next slide. One of the big tools that we get to use is that our Oregon counties have invested in providing youth with a Gorge Pass. This is an annual pass. It's a 12-month pass, unlimited rides, and it makes that usual kind of friction of providing of having to purchase a single ticket or a single pass for the day. It kind of launches our youth over that barrier, and just using their phone or using their student ID, a lot of times they're able to just get on the bus. So that really makes our programming a lot easier.
And connects the different providers as if it's one system, which is
Yes. So it does cover the entire four-county system, also reaching into Portland and the Vancouver area. So our service area is actually much larger than those four-county providers. Our Gorge Equity Fund also kind of expands our reach. We're able to provide the same kind of past programs for our youth in our Washington counties, which don't have that same the requirement to provide youth services with a specific amount of their resources. So we're able to through the Gorge Equity Fund that provides a certain amount. So every pass purchased gives a specific percentage to this Gorge Equity Fund. We also give some of those passes to organizations that are also providing youth activities, et cetera, outdoor recreation. So it's a great tool to have. Our superheroes. So this tool is just really essential. These are two of our travel trainers. They help us develop the youth programs during the summer. They work on getting into the school systems all year long, teaching youth how to use transit, working with teachers to plan like special youth trips. And a lot of those youth trips turn into, for example, there's one really great story um, of Eve who took a youth with disabilities transit trip from Stevenson in Skamania County into Vancouver, Washington. And these were youth with developmental disabilities. And one of the youth who was on that trip, her dad followed up with Eve afterwards and said, "Look, we think we can get her a job in Stevenson." She was in a tiny community about 15 miles away from Stevenson, but she had a job at a bookstore if she could get there. Her dad, single parent, works full time, couldn't drive her every day, but she was able to use the bus, and so she was able to get that job. And we've got a ton of stories just like that. Next slide. All right, and now we're gonna show you a great video that we produced, and I'm gonna pass it on to Emily to
this is just a
talk
little
to you.
compilation of the Gorge Pass and all the things you can do in our area with transit. It is not teen focused, but it gives you an overall feel.
That bus over there. Hold on, this is actually blowing my mind that it goes to Multnomah Falls. It goes all over the gorge.
I had no idea that coming up to Hood River would be so accessible.
It's suddenly affordable.
Less driving. It's been great.
I don't have to worry about parking. I have a little bus and I can take the bus home. It'll be safe. No worries. It was nice to have it all kind of planned out for me. I thought it was pretty easy.
The Gorge Pass is the best thing since sliced bread.
If you don't have one, get one.
So just a little feel of things you can do with the Gorge Pass. So we then turned to teens. So I'm going to talk with you. Nope, I'm not going to do that one.
Over there.
Nope, nope, come on. I love technology. Come on, there we go. I'm going to talk to you about 6 summers. And this is not a program that is, we're coming to you. This presentation is not like, we got it all figured out and we're so successful and here you go. That is not this presentation. This presentation is walking you through our process and knowing that we are in the middle of that process, but we wanted to share and maybe we can give you some shortcuts as you develop your own. So the first summer, this was when we first were pulling together the Gorge Pass, right? The coordinated pass that all of the providers were going to work together with. So we were pulling together website and basic materials. And so that first year, we added to our new website information for teens. That first year also happened to be COVID. Super fun time to launch bus services. So that was really fun. But we did have this kind of little bit of hiatus for that summer. I don't know if you remember, we kind of had a little bit of COVID in the spring, and then we were like, oh, it's over, right? So we did have this little moment in the summer. And so we did some photography of kids. But really what we did was we put information on the website about each town and just listed where you can get to by bus, including ice cream, skate parks, pools, libraries, waterfront, what have you. We also, it's interesting, we started about calling it Gorge Kids. We definitely changed that phrasing. So that's also an interesting thing that changed. But anyway, first thing we just gave info. Here's where you can get to by bus. Summer number 2, in between summer number 1 and summer number 2, we were able to give out those Gorge passes to middle school and high schoolers. And so we then, at the beginning of summer number 2, in addition to letting folks know what they could do, reminded kids. We sent out posters and materials, worked with the schools, not only to get the passes, but at the end of the year, we got this information into their hands to say, don't forget, you've been using this pass to get to school, but you can use it in the summer, and here are all the things that you can do. Pretty simple. Summer number 3 is when we introduced our first, what we called Youth Rider Rewards. Very dry way of talking about it. But basically, this started with a small town that was 20 minutes from the larger town. That small town was Cascade Locks. It has 1,300 people total. And what we thought was, hey, those kids who are old enough to be independent can take the bus into Hood River. And if they do that, they get a prize that they get to use when they get to Hood River. And so this was fairly easy structurally because the kid just dropped on the job. If they arrived at the transit center, which is the only place you could, get off the bus from Cascade Locks, they just walked into the transit center and they got a prize. Their name was written down, and then each time they got a better prize for the 4 times. So that was pretty simple structurally, and it worked pretty well. It was also a great way to get the information out that, hey, we have travel training and the bus is fun. Yay. So that was the first year. So that worked well enough that we introduced it, summer number 4, to the larger town of Hood River. So we had a new map that we put out there that was, again, like getting the word out where all the places you can go. So we got off the website for that. And we changed the kind of the way that we talked about it to the summer of freedom, ride the bus, get free stuff. The way that it worked was if you were middle or high school during the summer, you either stopped by the main transit center or the library, and you rode the bus, got it stamped to prove that you rode the bus, and you got a prize. The way that this one worked was we had a card that was given out to them. So it was just like a business card. So on the front was the info, on the back was an empty spot. So once you rode the bus, at the button, the front of the bus was a stamp, and then you got to go turn it in for whatever the prize was. So that's the way that worked that summer. Summer number 5, we added the DALs, and it worked, and we looked at a different way of doing it. So this was slightly different. We didn't have the card. It worked all the same way, except we just gave them the prize directly with a sticker on the back to stamp. So this was, instead of a card to turn in, it was the actual certificate. And the way this worked a lot better, slight change, but a lot better because the businesses basically didn't have to train their staff so extensively. They were used to giving out gift certificates. They were used to receiving gift certificates. Super easy that way. All they had to do was like, is it stamped or not? So that was a lot easier for the businesses. It was also easier for us to know how many prizes were left because when we were handing out the cards, we didn't know if they were going to turn them in or not. It was great that they could pick up like 5 at once and do it all through the summer, but we didn't know how many people were going to turn them in, so we didn't know how many prizes were. It was, much simpler this way. Start this way. That's all I'm saying. The only downside is that you might be able to take that sticker off the back that you have to stamp, maybe, but again, there's an element of trust to all of this. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to share was that we're putting everything into Spanish. So that was one thing. I'm gonna put just a little bit of time on showing you this Instagram video that we did for the Spanish. I'm gonna see if I
Hola, mi nombre es.
just show you the little bit of it so that just a taste of it. It's a long video, but I'm gonna just share it.
Nos van a sellar. Hola, estamos aquí para participar en el Summer Freedom Program.
Oh, great. Which coupons would you guys like?
Pietros.
Here you go. You just get that stamped when you ride the bus.
Gracias. Ya tenemos nuestro boleto de Pietros Pizza
Mike's ice cream.
y también el Gorge Pass y estamos esperando el autobús. Ya viene el bus. Qué chévere. Ya que tenemos los sellos, podemos bajar a buscar los premios. Y ahora, para la parte divertida, agarrar nuestros premios. Vámonos. Ahora estamos aquí en Mike's Ice Cream.
Okay, so when they showed how to get the prizes, etc., it's a really very, very simple walkthrough, which is kind of what we're trying to show them. Look, it's super easy. So, just kind of showing them how easy it is was the goal of this, as well as to get the word out. In the Dalles, we extended it into so the Dalles, I would say, is there's a difference between the Tale of Two Towns, right? So Hood River was much more successful. It's easier to hop on a bus here than it was in the Dalles. It's just a little more compact, a little bit different demographics. So it definitely took off more. In the Dalles, it was a bit slower and harder, and also same with transit uptake for that area. We're trying to just get everybody used to the idea of transit anyway, so it was just a little bit harder in the Dalles. So, but any case, we extended it into the school year for the Dalles that year. Okay, and then finally, we're looking at this summer. Our plans, just so you understand, are in Hood River. We're expanding. We're looking at getting the prize as a chance to give a little adventure. So we're expanding those prizes so that when you're in Hood River, your prize is in Parkdale, right? So you're taking this little mini adventure to the small town next door and getting the ice cream there. And we're all of the prizes in each of the places that you can pick them up are doing that for you. So, and again, it's very, very safe, very close. It's just this extra little here, go on an adventure, get something at the end. So we're expanding into towns to do that. In the Dalles, in order to make it really more vibrant and uptake, is we're giving instead of just stopping by the library or the transit center, we're expanding all the places that you can pick up. So it's much easier, more accessible. We've also expanded for kids, all kids under 17. So that includes moms. And I have just a quick video for you for that, which is to show kind of how we want the moms to see the bus and use this program. So we think that if the parents are taking the kids, then it gets the kids used to bus riding and we integrate them early. We also get to use our partners that the travel trainers have developed, social services that all of these folks are going to be able to give out those prizes and get those folks riding the bus and getting the prizes with their kids. So that's a really great thing that we're excited about. And then finally, we're going to integrate more this summer with this amazing program that Megan Ramey in our area, the Safe Routes to School person, has developed. She gets the kids to do bikes plus bus and has all these adventures through our area through the summer. So it's just a great program that these kids get to do amazing things. And so we're integrating the freedom, summer freedom program into this program as well. So that's just another easy, super great way of doing this now that we've built our system up. Going to end really quick. I'm going a little bit over, so I'm just going to show you one of these to you, which is, I know this is great, but it's long, sorry. So I'm just so video, we have this great video. It's basically showing again kids using the bus, right? So it's just, here's where you can go, here's what you can do. We used actual scenes to do it. I'm sorry, I'm going to share that with you later. Oh my God, seriously. It will not advance. Okay, well,
Emily, if you want to share that with me, I can send it
Thank
out in
you.
a follow-up email.
Thank you so much. Will it do it now? Okay. Okay.
I'm taking a bus to a volleyball camp in Portland, and I'm taking the
Instagram.
bus because my mom doesn't want to drive me. I'm taking the Columbia Gorge Express to the Portland Gateway Transit, and then I'll take a green line to Clackamas Town Center, and then from there I'll take a bus and I'll go straight to the volleyball club. I'm meeting some friends from the volleyball team there, and we're gonna crush it. And then I'll bring them home in the same way. Bus, train, bus.
Okay. So yeah, just using Instagram, using kids making their own videos, which we provide the editing, but they shoot them themselves. And yeah, just another way of doing outreach and that teen communication. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Emily. That was really fun to see all the fun things that you're doing for kids and that it has grown and developed over the years. That's really encouraging to see. Okay, so now we're going to share screen here for.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say I grew up in Lane County riding the buses as a kid. Very excited to hear about this.
Great. So now let's give our attention to Sarah Mazze, and she'll explain what's going on with transit for youth in Lane County.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Sarah Mazze again. I'm the Safe Routes to School coordinator in Eugene School District 4J. And we're a district of about 14,000 students in Eugene. And today I'll be talking with you about why we developed a transit education training program, what we've done, how it's been working so far, and what our next steps are. And I will share with Commute Options to share out with the rest of you the resources that we developed to run this program so that if you're interested in replicating, that's easier to do. So, oh, next slide. I forgot I wasn't doing it. Okay. So this was some of the original promo for the free Youth Pass program that, similar to what we just heard about, our students in Lane Transit District service area, which is not all of Lane County, but a lot of Lane County and all of the urban area. They're lucky enough to get free student passes. It's an amazing program. It started also with the same funding right before COVID. Fun times. And I have been kind of the lead person in the district trying to get those passes out to students, which is a whole other story. But in the process of doing that, I talked with a lot of students, talked with a lot of guardians and caregivers, and learned that there was a lot of many students didn't know how to find a route. I would hand them the pass, and then they would say, oh, now what do I do with this? So it became pretty clear, or I had a lot of guardians, I had a lot of students say, oh no, I don't ride the bus, or guardians saying, I don't feel safe with them riding the bus. So there were obviously issues just with skill, um, comfort, and perceptions of safety. And so it became clear that even though there was this amazing resource for students with the free pass, they needed more. Next slide. So in starting this program, we had a couple of goals. Eugene School District 4J is similar to Portland Public, unique amongst the state in school districts in that we have, I think it's technically a waiver that means that we only provide, it allows the state to not reimburse us for transporting high school students unless they live more than 1.5 miles from a transit stop. So theoretically, transit is replacing the school bus for students who live more than 1.5 miles from a transit stop. So that also is a whole other story. I'm not going to get into that here, but that means that we really do want our high school students riding transit as well as getting to school in other ways, ideally not driving themselves, but we want them to get to school. So we that's one of our major goals, was helping high school students get to school by the bus. Next slide. And I'm just out of school right now, so sorry about the background noise. I think I took over someone's office. The second goal is that we really wanted transit to be a real option for all of our students. So that meant demystifying riding by teaching them how to use the passes, how to get off. We wanted to have students feel safer riding the bus and help them understand the difference between feeling unsafe and uncomfortable, and so that they could recognize that the bus is actually safe. We wanted to ideally eventually get that message to the parents as well. That's an area that we still need to work on quite a bit. So next slide. All right, this is just a little, in case you don't work with middle school students, this is just to help you understand the brains of the students that we were working with. Before we did a pre and post survey, and as part of the survey, we asked them, is there anything else you want us to know? And so we got some interesting, this is last year, you can maybe tell by the skibbity. I don't know if that's really so much of part of the language this year, but is there anything you'd like us to know? No, but I do like avocados. No number before 1,000 contains the letter A. Middle schoolers have lots of interesting stuff on their minds. So that was our audience. Next slide. And we started off the way that we set up this program. I'm in the school district, so that's another thing that makes this program easier to implement, is that I was able to coordinate with the person who was the instructional, the teacher on special assignment, working with all the health teachers and PE teachers. Through her, I connected with some PE teachers health teachers in the district, 8th grade health teachers, who'd be willing to pilot this. And we set it up so that the middle schoolers had one session that I came in and model taught. And that was a classroom session that covered why you would ride the bus. They pulled out they have access to laptops, so everyone got out a laptop and they practiced planning a route using Google Maps or Lane Transit District's website. We taught them the basics of riding, like how do you know if you're at the right stop? How do you ask for your stop? The rules, swiping your card, connecting with the driver if you need help with any of those technical pieces. And then we also have the students, we have some discussion between the students and as a whole class about challenging situations that they might encounter on the bus, whether it's things like missing your bus or your stop, or things like the people across the aisle from you are fighting. What should you do? Or there's someone who's talking to you and you don't want to talk to them. So we just touch on different styles of communication, assertive and passive and aggressive communication, and when you would want to use those. We don't encourage aggressive communication. All this, every class, someone probably came up with the idea. There's people fighting next to you, videotape it. So we also shut that one down. But they also came up with really good ideas for ways to deal with it. Um, we and we really just wanted to get that message across, like I said before, about the bus is safe. It might feel uncomfortable sometimes, and those uncomfortable situations help us grow. But we don't want you to be unsafe. If you feel unsafe, you can get off the bus, and that's really unlikely to happen. We also shared with them the really, horrible statistics about driving being a leading cause of teen death, but transit is 60 times safer. So, yeah, again, just really trying to get them to be able to parse out in their minds and bodies what is what's safe and what's uncomfortable. So the second day is a field trip. And actually, next slide. This is where I'd say class one is more the mind. This is more the body, helping them somatically feel that the bus is safe because this day, basically within one small class period, we walked students out to the closest bus stop, got on the bus, they all swiped their card, found a place to sit on the bus, and really you could see them settling. And gears turning as they looked around and saw that it's a big bus. If I don't want to sit next to that person that looks a little sketchy to me, then I can sit somewhere else or I can sit near the driver. And to just have that experience of being on the bus, being with friends, being safe was really powerful. Walking after we only rode a stop or two, 1 to 3 stops, depending on the school and the layout of the neighborhood, because we wanted to get them back in time for their next class. But afterwards, walking back to class, I overheard, and then other teachers told me that they overheard students talking about where they could go on the bus now that they knew how to ride and had access to free passes. Riding together. It was exciting to hear that they actually saw it as a viable option for them. This part of the program is the most challenging because the logistics of planning a field trip are really tricky with permission slips, making sure that, this is going to be different school district to school district, but in our district, there's a lot of sign-offs that need to happen. The nurse needs to look at the lists of everyone who's going and make sure that people are trained medically to deal with any issues that students might have. The teachers didn't all know how to initiate the field trip process and get all the signatures and everything. 4J is working on making that process simpler. Maybe it's simpler in some of your school districts. I hope so. But that is definitely a barrier to getting teachers to want to participate in the program and also to transitioning this program to being something that they run on their own. I alluded to this, but didn't say explicitly. My intention with this is I model teach it, or I had an intern this year who was model teaching it with me. Manage, do a lot of as much as I can to support the field trip. My philosophy always with Safe Routes is I want to just make it as easy as possible for the school staff to have our programs. So I did as much as I could with the field trip from outside the school, but within the district. And then ideally, after seeing a couple classes, they could do the class part on their own and do as much of the field trip on their own as they could. I said, if you need help with chaperones, beyond that, I'm happy to chaperone or find volunteers who can chaperone who are background checked. So that's kind of still a work in progress. I did have some health teachers who said, I can't do this because I just can't deal with the field trip process. This year, LTD, we have a wonderful partner at LTD that we're working with who's managing the Youth Pass program. And she was able to arrange at some schools where the bus stop was too far to make it to the bus, ride, and then get back in time for the next class. She arranged for a bus to be at the school so that students could get at least the experience of boarding the bus, swiping their card, being on the bus, even if they didn't have the experience of riding with other people, which was really great. and waiting at the stop with other people. And waiting and, maybe not having your bus arrive right on time and handling it. So I think that's all I'll say about that for now. All right, next slide. Like I said before, we had a pre and post survey. We haven't tallied the results for this year yet. So these are results from last year. We have on here a bar chart with the pre-survey results in yellow and the post-survey in green. And we asked students, we said, I know how to pick my route. And they had to choose from a scale of 1 to 5. Number 1, I'm unsure, all the way to number 5, I could teach a friend. And in the beginning, before the class, we had kind of a distribution, but more on the side of not knowing, not feeling sure about how to pick her out. And that dramatically changed to students feeling quite confident about picking their route after the class. All right, next slide. Similar findings with confidence riding the bus. Pre and post, we asked them, the pre is in blue on this bar chart and more of a distribution in terms of their confidence. But after the class, we had on the right side again is super confident I could go alone. On the left side of the graph is not at all. And we had very few students, less than 10 students or so who said they didn't feel confident, with everyone else in the neutral or feeling really confident. So that was great. Next slide. We asked them about their perceptions of safety. I feel safe riding the LTD bus. No, I do not is on the left, and yes, I do is on the right. So pre-survey, we had more students who said they felt safe. We had about 100 students say they felt safe riding the bus before, and 50 saying they didn't. But and then after, we had nearly 125 saying they felt safe and less than 25 saying they didn't. So good shifts there as well. Next slide. And the last thing I want to share with you from our pre and post survey, although we did ask a little bit more, we asked about their plans to ride the bus, because behavior change research shows us that that intention to do something is a strong predictor of behavior. And so on the left, we said, I will ride the LTD bus to high school, because we were just working with 8th graders at that point. On the left is I don't know, then we have never, then every now and then we had some days of the week and most days of the week on the far right. And from the pre-survey in the blue to the post-survey on the red, we saw more students move to some days of the week and most days of the week, actually about doubling for most days of the week. It's a small number still who said they were going to ride some or most days of the week. But we decreased the amount of students who said they were never going to ride or they didn't know. And we had those students move into the every now and then, some days or most days. So that is exciting as well. And yeah, maybe we'll see with rising gas prices that might be manifesting even more, because it is free for them. So this year, we worked with 9th and 8th graders. So we were in the high school and the middle school. That was with the idea that it was okay for some of them to have it twice, and that it could be good actually to refresh them on this. As we move through the year, we've decided that it probably just makes more sense to stick with the 8th graders. It's a really good age to be working with this content, because by then a lot of parents and guardians are comfortable with their students riding transit in our area, and they haven't reached 9th grade yet, where they are friends with, or maybe the sibling of students who are already driving. Driving is still more out of reach at 8th grade, whereas 9th grade, it's starting to feel more in reach, it seems, and making transit less appealing. We still intend to keep model teaching with every new health teacher. We reached almost all the health teachers this year in 8th and 9th grade. We will continue supporting with field trip planning as needed. Some of the teachers managed it on their own this year, which was really exciting. We'll continue to just improve the curriculum as we hear from students and teachers how it's working for them. The piece that I'd really like to grow is communication with the families to just help try and get that message through to parents and guardians about the safety of riding the bus and what a great option it is for their middle and high schoolers for so many reasons. And then we'll keep working with Lane Transit District to streamline the process for student passes to get those to be easier for students to get. Next slide. I think this is my last. Yep, that's it. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone has questions for Sarah or Emily and Kathy, either raise your hand or pop it in the chat and we'll start going through some of those.
I have a question.
Emily.
I'm wondering that 60% safer, is that over teens driver? I would love to get that source and use that.
Yes, I was actually telling the students 10% safer and that, or sorry, 10 times safer.
10
And
times
I looked
safer.
it up again. I looked it up again last month and it found data saying it's 60 times safer. I'll look it up and I'll find that for you. It might have been the National Highway Association.
Love it. Thank you.
I have a question. So I work for a rural transit district in Bend, Oregon, for Cascades East Transit. And so I'm obviously not working within a school, but do you have any advice for coordinating a field trip type event within a school as an outside agency? I heard you say going through the district first to kind of get a lay of what the requirements are, but physically getting teachers on board as an outside entity, do you have any advice?
I can, Jane, who is it that you're working with again?
I work for Cascades East Transit, but we're looking to partner with Commute Options for a transit education program.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So what we've done in looking from the transit provider perspective is that anytime we do like a group trip, it would be very difficult so once they're on the bus, the liability kind of switches to the transit provider. Their liability covers what happens on the bus. But you've got a lot of the trip that's not going to be on the bus. So what we've done is we work with a lot of different organizations. So senior centers with the school system, we make sure that they understand that they're taking on that liability. Like, I think that's a really important part of the process. And I put together like an email explanation about what that means. And then they sign an agreement that they understand that they're liable, that this is their trip. Like you are helping as a travel trainer from the transit agency with their trip. So I think that's really important because it would be a really weird situation where the transit agency would be responsible or liable for that trip. Doesn't really make sense. So we work with say like different organizations with that are say training students, student training organizations for medical purposes or for medical training, and they need to know how to ride the bus to get to school. So they they take on the liability of those field trips. And the same with all of the students with disabilities, all of those organizations that we work with, they take on that liability. And we make it very clear that we are helping. We will help them with the transit education part of that trip. And I'll have Emily talk about the senior trips that she does because those are super fun. Although it's not, I mean, you can kind of see how you would do something like that with youth.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I don't know if that's what you were interested in with the seniors, because the kids, you'd want to reach into the school district, right? So, but the seniors are, yeah, a fun way to do it. Seniors meaning senior citizens. We work with like programs and get them to do fun trips as well. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so like visiting a museum and then having part of that visit be instructions on transit. So things like that. And especially with youth, that's super um that's really easy to weave into the whole field trip.
We do have a quick question from the chat about how again was the program funded in the Gorge? Was it someone arrived late? Can you please explain that to us again, how the
how
transit
it's
program is?
funded. Yeah, Kathy, do you want to?
Sure. Um, so I'm not sure exactly what the question is asking. So the youth passes are purchased by the transit agencies with their required 1% that they're supposed to be spending of state funds. So um, so so some of that goes towards the travel trainer. We also get discretionary grants that help us with all sorts of different programming um, and marketing, outreach. I'm not. I think the question might be specific to a certain part of the program, but I'm not sure what that is.
Let's
Hey,
see.
Kathy, thanks for answering that. I can just chime in real quick. I'm curious, like all of the incentives, for, like you get the free time at the pool, or maybe there was like an ice cream one, or just things like that. Curious about that specifically. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's almost sometimes the easiest part of it. I'll have Emily speak to that, but it's definitely working, just reaching out, working with your partners.
Yeah, we just go buy them. We have a budget that it's allowed for that. So we get there's been some folks that want to donate. A lot of times we've been in economic situations where we don't want to burden our businesses or small businesses. So, but some of them do donate. Yeah, and that's been amazing. But mostly we just go in and purchase.
Yeah, so like pool passes, you work with your recreation district because they're happy. We've worked with them for years, so they're happy to provide us with things like pool passes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I might throw one out there for you. How have parents responded to their students using the public transit independently? Have you had barriers there? Have you had good response, or how do you go about educating the parents as well?
Yeah.
I mentioned that's something that we want to do, and the only thing that we've included with our program so far is a flyer that goes home to parents, letting them know, or parents and guardians letting them know that their student is participating in transit education, a little just bullet points about what they're learning, and that factoid on the safety of transit. So I don't, and I didn't hear anything. I haven't heard anything back from parents or caregivers. So I don't have anything to share on that, but I don't think it's sufficient. I think that we do need to do more than just a flyer home, because who knows if that even, did it make it into anyone's hands? I have no idea. It's really hard to communicate with older students, parents, and guardians. So that I'm open to ideas.
I have a kid who so the kid that went to volleyball kind of made him do that. But anyway, he took his friend, and so actually the first time he tried to get all his friends, the parents all were like, no, 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 you're not riding the bus in Portland. But having him do it and take one and then another, and like basically just modeling it, and then also from a program point of view, showing kids using the bus is the way that we model it. Look, this is somebody's doing it. But yeah, it's tough. It's real.
And the other thing that we're planning for this summer is to offer, especially in the Dalles, which has more of a caution. The parents are more cautious about using transit, and so we're kind of hitting the kids younger so that the parents are going to be accompanying them. So we're talking about pretty young kids who need that parental accompaniment or caregiver accompaniment. Um, it, and it really, it was we thought about it last summer because there were a few parents who went to the library to because they heard about the program, and then they were turned away because their kids were too young to do the activities. So we thought, well, gosh, if the parents are willing to take their young kids on the bus, um, heck, that's a great way to get both the parents and the kids used to riding transit.
The other thing that we do is it basically comes down to, is the pain point for parents higher than the bus? And so the bus up to the mountain has been hugely popular for that age group of like middle schoolers where the parent doesn't have to drive the hour up, sit and wait, and drive back on that snowy road. That's been a huge benefit. The parents are like, oh yes, the bus, that's good. So yeah, we're looking for case studies that, yeah, are attractive.
Any other thoughts or comments from anyone who, either our presenters or anyone in the audience?
I just want to put in another plug for Megan Ramey, who's been offering these youth bike plus bus or walking plus bus youth programs every summer. I think she would be a great one to do a presentation on all of the ways that she's gotten kids involved in the summer.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great opportunity. You can get so much farther if you get part of the distance on the bus and then continue the adventure from there. I like that idea. Okay, well, I guess we will wrap it up with a few announcements. Excuse me. So I wanted to mention that next month's virtual meeting on June 16th is going to be a joint Safe Routes to School effort with Oregon and Washington. And so this is going to be a special networking event with practitioners joining from Oregon and Washington, a good opportunity to learn and share with each other. So we hope to see you join for that, and the registration link will be sent out in the follow-up email. And May Challenge is still ongoing. If you haven't had an activity yet at your school, or if you're thinking about getting one in at the last minute, I know some of the local schools here got one in towards the end of the month. We can still order incentives through the end of May. So I will also send the link out for that in the follow-up email as well. And then we want to stay tuned for more resources on transit passes and travel training for students. We might have some more information on that coming down the pipeline in the future. So with that, we will thank you for being here, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.